All right, episode 3 already. Holy shit!
I know.
This time is flying. We're gonna be at like 100 in no time.
Yeah, we're jumping right into it.
For real. All right, so this week's about programming and the differences between how we program. So some things like bulking workout plan, cutting workout plan, why we do the sets and reps that we do for our clients and stuff like that. And the first thing, obviously, we talked about cutting last week and shredding, burning fat. But maybe if we could go into reps this week. For me, for example, for my clients and myself, my reps when I'm shredding are obviously a lot higher. 15s, 20s, max reps, lots of combos, lots of supersets. And just because I'm trying to burn more calories. That's pretty much the number one reason. The number two reason is I'm just trying to completely tear that muscle down for it to rebuild over time.
I think it may be important too, if going away from the cut, talking about like the elephant in the room, like whether you're bulking or whether you're cutting, one thing that we have to do is like that initial phase. So people come to us and they're like, yeah, I want to put on mass right away, or they want to shred up right away. And we have to kind of get a baseline for their macros, kind of like a maintenance phase for the first 4 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks, so we can see where they're at. What is the nutrition regime like? How are you following? What's your adherence to the plan? Are you 100%? Are you 75? Like, where are we, so we can move on to your actual goals? Because if we just start bulking you up on top of your physique that you come to us with, you're not going to like the way that you look. You're going to be heavier, but you're not going to like the way that you look. So there's that 4 to 6 weeks that is really hard to get into anybody's head. Even I think we've all been through this, where you have to have a phase before you grow, where you get healthy. You get on a plan that you can adhere to nutrition wise, lifting wise. You want to be in the gym 6 times a week training because you think that that's optimal. But in reality, you're going to have to take that some time to recover, work on your mobility so you're not getting injured, because who knows what you were doing before you came to us.
That's exactly right.
So that's just something for both of them, bulking or cutting. I wanted to like start everything off with, because it's one of the first things that I try to implement into, my clients' heads. It's like, look, you got to trust the process here. We can't just bulk you up right away. I think Jesse, when he came to us, Robbie, his goal was to put on size right away. He was super confused when we shredded him down at first. Now he's the same weight as he started, 176.8, literally at this week's check-in. He was 176.8. His 2 photos at 176.8, they look completely different. And he's loving it. All the measurements have gone up. We do weekly measurements for him, and everything has gone up except for his waist. He just had his first waist gain in inches. Everything else has been going up. So
shout out to Jesse.
Shout out to Jesse. Yeah, he's been doing a really good job. So sticking to his goals, he's spot on with that. So shout out Jesse. He's killing it.
That's the first thing when they come to us. It's like, we need to figure out what you're about. We need to see, hey, are you going to have some cheat meals? Are you going to be sticking to the plan? Are you going to be able to upload your photos every check-in day? You know what I mean? Then from there, we need to see how your body metabolizes food. If your body's not metabolizing food the way we need it to, and you're not gaining as much weight as we want you to at like 3,500 calories or something, whatever it would be, the calories for that person, we need to backtrack. We need to kind of figure out what's going on behind the scenes with blood work and stuff like that.
Blood work. That's the first thing we always request, and a lot of people are like, wait, why do you need that for my plan? It's like, that's everything for the plan,
to see if you're pumped up or not.
So I just wanted to start my spiel off with that. That's definitely something that is both cutting and bulking, but something that we need to build a program is very important, that we get a baseline for the client so we can move forward with your actual goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brando, kind of what you said, like, I kind of call it like getting it on the dartboard. Like, obviously, when you figure up someone's maintenance, it is theoretical just due to adaptations through life stress and shit like that. But if you can't even get on the fucking dartboard before you want to start working on a goal, you're shooting yourself in the foot before you even get fucking started. Like you guys said, if you're not digesting food appropriately, there's a lot of inflammation, maybe you have low T, maybe you have a lot of cortisol. Like, you could cram that food in, but doesn't mean it's going to be metabolized and utilized in your body the way you expect it to be. So you can put on 5 pounds in 2 weeks, but if it's just unwanted water weight, your motivation is going to be killed out of the gate, and you're not going to be likely to want to continue. So just find that baseline's probably the best thing you could do, like Brando said.
Shitty gas in a motor.
Exactly. If there's something going on, you need to tune up first before you go on that long road trip kind of thing, for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to touch on was the rep ranges, like you were talking about, Rob. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of that too. When you're in like a building phase or a bulking, whatever the fuck you want to call it, obviously you stay more in like a strength hypertrophic kind of rep range split, because obviously you have a lot more nourishment coming in. That's when you're going to build up a lot more of that like athletic, dense muscle tissue that everyone likes to have. But I'm a big proponent of trying to keep rep ranges around the same, but then with like your big compound lifts, keep them like they normally would, just to make sure that early in the lift, we're keeping our strength up, or preserving muscle. But then everything after that, that's when I'll either increase rep ranges or add drop sets or supersets in, just to stimulate that a little bit more. And you got to think, when we have less food coming in during a cut, we want to appropriate that blood volume to the muscle. So that's where we need to focus more so on pump after the major compound lift to stimulate that muscle protein synthesis. After that, we just want to deliver as much nutrients, since we are lacking some because we're in a cut. We want to deliver
around
as much
that workout.
Yeah, exactly. And then to the muscle as much as possible. So that's why I like to kind of tier the rep ranges a little bit higher, or add drop sets and shit in when people are actually like deep into a cut.
Yeah, that's very true. And especially with a lot of people are saying, like, when they talk about shredding, they say that like a lot of people go into it not thinking they could build muscle while shredding, and they're just cutting their fat, which is absolutely not true. There's a reason for progressive overload, which we'll get into progressive overload now since we're talking about programming. But there is a reason for progressive overload. If you have sets of 15s, you could still progressive overload at 15s if you have sets of 15s or sets of 8s or sets of 5s. Like you could always progressive overload. Even with your drop sets, you always just write down the numbers that you're hitting with that drop set, and then you could always progressive overload with that, with even more reps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the one thing that you just mentioned, however, people say you can't build muscle and burn fat at the same fucking time, that was debunked a long time ago. So basically people saw the research, and this is what they said. They said, oh, you can't build muscle and burn fat in the exact same time, meaning in the exact same like millisecond or a couple seconds in which your body's more like, oh, we're oxidizing fat, or hey, we're going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Yeah, you cannot switch on and off from that. But if you're talking about a typical day, yes, like we talked about last week with energy systems, you can oxidize fat more appropriately at a different time of day, and your body be more like in a muscle kind of rebuilding or repairing phase. So people just looked at the literature and they were like, oh, you can't do it at the exact same time. So like if you're dieting, you might as well not even worry about trying to put on muscle. No, it just means in that exact fucking measured instance in which they were recording that, it's not possible. But it doesn't mean over 10 or 12 weeks that can't be done.
Yeah, because you have more oxygen in the blood cells while you cut too, right? Isn't that?
So if you don't have as much glucose and stuff just binding up certain receptors in the body, it is going to be that's why I was saying the pumps are usually better when you're not in like a deep cut, but right when you start it and your digestion's a little bit better. Usually your pumps are a little bit more just noticeable versus deep in a cut, or like when you're bulking, because you have all that fucking food in your system. And sometimes you have to worry about blood viscosity. As you guys know, your blood gets thicker, it's hard to get a pump. So just kind of cleaning out the system.
Harder to breathe.
Yes. And over tie your fucking shoes and you're huffing and puffing.
Yeah, so let's talk about progressive overload, because this is huge. And if any of my clients are watching this is the most important part, I feel. So progressive overload, let's talk about, let's say we do our working sets are 5, then max rep. So let's just go off the 5s, right? So let's say we are squatting, and this week we squatted for 135 and we got 3. Next week we're going to squat and we're going to try to beat 3. Let's say we get 4. The next week after that, we're going to do 135 again, and we're going to try and beat 4, but we don't beat 4. So what do we do the following week? We try to get 5.
Yeah.
If we get 5 the following week, what happens then? We go up weight, right? So like as soon as we hit that number, we go up weight. That's what I try to explain to every person. That's what progressive overload is. The second you hit that number or more, let's say that we went from 4 to 7. Oh shit, like it's time to bump that weight up.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to max reps, it's like we're not so crazy about the weight at that point. We're more crazy about the reps until we're banging out like 15 to 20. Then it's like, okay, it's obviously time to bump up that weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A key indicator to talk about too, even with the progressive overload, like for me, I want to make sure that, you know, especially focus on compound lifts, that you're hitting the actual workout correctly. Not anybody, but you can go up there and you can move the weight. Okay, that's one thing. If we're working on strength, then I'm not going to be too on you about, you know, going up there, but the form has to be perfect. A good good on the eccentric. And when you come back up, make sure you're contracting whatever body part that we're working on. And you can still progressive overload that way under time, under tension. But the more very thing is focusing on the muscle group that you're actually trying to hit. Because I see somebody go up there, you see it all the time in the gym, some guy huffing and puffing with the 120-pound dumbbells, 110 on the dumbbells, and he's not hitting the form correctly. He's using his delts, he's using his triceps, he's not contracting on his chest movements. The first rep looks way different than the 6th rep, than the 7th rep. So a key thing that I like to do is if I think that before a client moves on to the progressive overload, I may have them send me like a little training video just as an example. So I say, okay, look, everything looks good. Let's move up. Let me see that top set before we move on in the progressive overload, because I don't want you going up and having the form wrong and thinking you're doing the right thing when we're not even contracting the specific muscle group that we're trying to hit. So that's a key indicator for me that it's time to move on in rep range or weight when we're progressive overloading. And
absolutely, that was
I think
a really
all my
good point.
clients, I think all my clients can attest to that. I try my best to see what exactly they're doing so I can fix anything and give some pointers. So if we do need to stay at that same weight, we can still make it challenging.
Yeah, and the worse your form is, the more you're going to bottleneck yourself with strength gains. So if you start with correct form, your strength is going to shoot up a lot quicker and a lot more consistently than if your form is absolute dog shit, because mechanically you're at a disadvantage point. So that's a really good point, Brando.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, and you know what? I was laughing a little bit while you were talking about that, because today I was doing my bench press, my incline bench, and I looked at the video I took. And I was like, ooh, like I was going a little too fast, like because I had to beat the number. I was going a little too fast. My form's looking funky. So when he said that, I was like, oh, this bitch is calling me out.
No, definitely not. But
I thought he was calling you out, low key.
For real.
I would have said if I was calling you out, I wouldn't have called your warm up weight at 120. I would have said the 150 weight. No, another thing I wanted to talk about too that you touched on, Rob, is the steady progress week to week. And how that comes is, and I've been a huge advocate of in the past of just always training. You can overtrain, and that will definitely prohibit you from making those gains in the gym. And you think that when you're going in there, yes, the pump is nice. It feels good to get in there. Sometimes you got to find other things to do in the gym. Work on your mobility. Maybe hit the sauna. Do things that you usually wouldn't do. Work on some accessory body parts, your traps, your forearms, your calves, things that you don't specifically focus on. But if you're going in there 6 days a week, 1 rest day a week, and you're expecting to make strength gains every single week, at some point you are going to plateau. And you need those recovery days, and I didn't realize that until later on in my lifting career, how important those days are. It is much more optimal. You will get much more out of your program if you do take those training days or those rest days seriously. It'll enhance the training days and allow you to recover. So when you go back in the gym, you're prepared. You can push harder. You got your workouts. You got your rep ranges that you hit the previous week. Go in there with a goal to beat that and do what you need to do. So
you came with the hot topics today, Brando. You're hitting all of them right on the rest.
Brother.
This one's really good. Rest is so important. I mean, I had a client come to me working with somebody else for a while, and he's like, dude, I haven't put on size for over the last 6 months. I'm at like 7,000 calories now. And he's like, I can't eat anymore. So the first thing I changed was I was like, how many days do you take off? And he was like, I don't take any days off. And I was like, that is your problem. That is your first problem. I want you taking 3 days off to start with me. I don't want you doing shit, especially when you pay a trainer. They're telling you.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck am I paying you
for? Take 3 days off. Yeah. Take 3 days off. Don't do shit. Then I added the 2 days of rest. And this kid gained like 20 pounds. And it's just like, I didn't change anything. Well, obviously I brought his calories down, but I didn't change anything else other than his rest. And I was like, I actually want you not going to the gym, and I want you taking naps. Yeah. Because what's the one thing that happens when we're sleeping is our growth hormone. Yep. So
the way I kind of explain it to like help people understand, get them to buy into rest days is like just a quick overview of working out. You cause a stress to a muscular system. You allow for adaptation, and that's when you progress. Encounter that same stress again, you're stronger. You're not going to have the same micro tears and breakdown again. But if you don't allow for that adaptation response, you're not going to get stronger. You're just going to keep breaking down fascia that doesn't have a chance to rebuild.
So exactly, nail on the head. Exactly. And I explain it like this, even with my hands. You break down the muscle, right? And the resting phase is when the muscle heals like this, and then it layers on top of each other. So if you're just going to hit that muscle every day and you're tearing down those muscle fibers every day, you're not giving it time to heal and build. So you're just not gaining any size.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
That's why that hashtag no days off needs to fucking die.
Yeah, literally, who came up with that? They should hashtag get the fuck out.
Yeah, go home and rest.
Yeah, no, and that's a big thing in the industry. You know, I'm sure Rob, when he came to you, he was like, I don't take days off. He said that with confidence, like, yeah, you're gonna love me as a client. But it's like, man, listen, we're like that. It's hard, just like you said. Like, you know, you're paying for, you know, our guidance, and the first thing we tell you is you're only going to be training 4 days a week. They're like, what? Like, what? How is that? How am I going to grow? And you don't realize how much stress you're putting on your body with a 7-day workload on top of everything else you need to do. It's not it. It's just not it. You know,
if you're thinking about like finances and like investments, like you want to put in the least you can and get the best return, right? That's the same with your workouts. Absolutely. You want to put in the less like days in the gym and make them very effective and very intense, and then get the best return on investment without going 6-7 days a fucking week.
Work smarter, not harder. You know?
Exactly.
Always. So I couldn't agree more. So
yeah, absolutely. Really good, dude. Really, really good, guys. What else? We did rest times, effective volume, rep ranges. Did we touch on time under tension too much? Or, I mean,
Brando broke it down a little bit, but yeah,
we could talk a little bit about that. Pretty much, you're putting the muscle, you're tearing it down for a longer period of time for each rep. That's pretty much what time under tension is, in my opinion. What can you guys touch on that?
Yeah, so basically you just get a better fiber recruitment from your agonist and antagonist muscle groups that are working. So like if you're doing a chest press, the agonist is going to be your chest and your triceps and maybe a little bit of front deltoid. Antagonist is going to be like biceps, your lats, because it's supporting, right? So when you go a lot slower in the movement, one, you're going to lower the impact or the stress that's being placed on the joint, because typically you're going to have to use a lighter weight, right? You're probably going to get a lot better form, and you're probably going to get a better range of motion, which usually transcends into just healthier joints and functionality of the body versus just doing heavy weight, half rep and shit, fourth rep and shit. You're not getting a full range of motion. And that's typically when people have like muscle tears. It's because their muscles were not trained in the range of motion they were made to be trained in. So then if you go to fall or do some shit, it's easier to tear some stuff. But time under tension is just that. Slowing the movement down, usually having a good tempo placed on you for the movement, and just really fucking filling it out and learning where you're supposed to actually feel the movement. And you can make a lot less weight feel way more intense. Especially on leg days. Yes.
Leg day time under tension is brutal, and I love it.
Yeah, same.
But you're right. You get that mind-body connection. You got that mind-body connection like hardcore one with time under tension for sure.
No. And that's just going to help you when you go to heavier weight. You're going to know where you're supposed to be feeling it. You're going to feel the contraction better. And it's just going to ultimately put you in a lot better place for hypertrophy muscle growth.
It's my favorite training method. You know, a lot of the programs that I make have time under tension. And if they aren't time under tension focused, there will be something in the workout where we are doing that. Whether it's on the compound lift, whether it's on an accessory exercise, I guarantee you that I will include it, because the amount of time that you're putting that muscle under the tension, you're going to feel it more. Any of my clients can adhere to that every single time that I, get those workout videos and I tell them, hey, let's do a 3-second negative. Let's do the pause reps. Almost every single time they come back and they tell me, oh my gosh, I have to go way lighter on this exercise. It makes perfect sense because not only are we preparing you for when you go back to that compound lift, not under time under tension, look at the strength gains that you'll make because you spent these last 3-4 weeks on the bench press doing 3 to 5 second eccentric on your negative, or a pause rep. They come back, and when we're going for more strength on that same compound lift, it's way higher than it was previously. So that's one of my favorite things for, time under tension is seeing the benefits of it long term when we get away from it on specific workouts. You can see those gains. Proof's in the pudding, so.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And when you're constantly pushing yourself to put on muscle. We're putting a lot of stress on the joints. So doing like a 4 or 8 week block of just time under tension, it's not only going to help you increase your strength, it's going to give your fucking joints the rest that they need so that you're not going to get injured in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
That brings us to a really good point of deload weeks.
I was going to say, bro, I've lied to motherfuckers and be like, oh, we're not deloading. We're just doing the time under tension block, homie. But really, they're kind of deloading while doing time under tension.
Deloads are, if I have a client tell me like, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling it lately. I'm not feeling the pump. I feel like I don't. This is when you know you need a deload week, is when you are dreading going to the gym like every single day for that week. Like we all have that, oh man, like this is going to be like a tough day. But when it's like all
not
week.
Not Brando. That motherfucker's wired to wake up to me at the gym.
Except Brando waking up at 3 a.m.
Listen, man. Everyone's hey, listen, there's 3 people that are at the gym at 5 a.m., right? You're either going through some shit, and you need to get there, first thing in the morning, work, or you're just a crazy dude. And unfortunately, I fall under all 3 of those categories. So that's why I'm there at 5 a.m. So that's funny. You guys said that they were calling me out. But the deload weeks, no, I do need them, and it gets you that break from your regular regime or your regimen, and you're able to really dial in on like every time I have a deload week, like you said, I really work on like the time under tension or like really focusing on the specific movements that I'm doing. And just to get me in there and like not going through the motion, because I'm still trying to get the most out of the workout, but like it's just so important, like especially if we're pushing the progressive overload for 3-4 straight weeks, you're going to need a week where you're giving your body a break. And it's like we've talked about, it's only gonna enhance your gains, your goal in the long run. So I think that they're definitely important. It's definitely scheduled out in advance. Like for me, I'll let them know about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of the deload week, so we can prep for that, so they can push, and then take that week. They know that when it's coming up, okay, it's about to be it's time for my deload week. So I usually prepare that out a little bit just so we can really push. Because if they're just like, if the week comes and they're just like, oh man, like I'm struggling this week, then it's different than when you have it planned. Because I can see the push, and then we take the deload week, then we're back to pushing. If the body is, adhering to what we want it to do. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you guys typically structure them, because I think it's smart to like kind of just go over the basics of what a deload is versus just regular programming, because someone might not even fucking know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I say 50 to 70%.
Okay, I agree
for the week.
Yep.
So like with all weights, just cut them 50, 70%. Still get that contraction. Do time under tension, 6 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah, and then get back to it the next week.
Okay. And then do you all usually like decrease the volume, like so the sets, I mean, too, or not really?
No, not when it comes to, because when you're doing the 50%, 50 to 70%, you're cutting all the weights down. So you're pretty much just doing like warm up sets and then like a little bit of a heavier set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I just like have had some clients in the past where like I have to run deloads sometimes 2 weeks if they're deep into a cut and there's a lot of like personal life stress going on. It starts to eat into like their sleep and stuff. And I'm like, we're going to run a deload for 2 weeks and you're doing 2 or 3 sets max out of every fucking movement. So just kind of want to pick your guys' brain on that.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what? That's good. That reminds me, like that makes me feel like, hey, I'm sure some people might need that out of my clients as well. So
yeah, of course.
I try to keep it, 4 to 6 weeks, every 4 to 6 weeks. And what I'll do is I will throw in basically some 20-minute stretching videos that I found, on my own time. I'll throw those in there. And yes, I will make the workouts a little bit shorter. But as far as like the mobility, I really key in on that week, really focusing on mobility, maybe even telling them to hit the chiropractor, get some body work done that week. If they don't, invest in that, I really tend to use that week as getting in there because of how beneficial it is. But naturally, I don't really change the workouts too much. I make them a little bit shorter by throwing in the stretching videos. I usually have them doing the stretching videos about 3 times a week and really having them adhere to the nutrition goals for that week, like dialing in 100% on the nutrition since we're taking a little bit away from the training, and then we get back to it, the following week. So that's usually how I program it. So, but I always, like I said, I tell them it ahead of time so we can plan for that. So we can push.
So they can push.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just different when you're on a treadmill and you know how far you're going versus like
Yeah.
all of a sudden I get a deload week thrown at me, you know?
Yeah.
Because if I always went based on the client's field, then they'd get a deload week more often than
Every other week.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's no hate to anybody. We all go through stuff and it's how life is. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's better to have something set out in advance. So once you get there, it's like, I made it, you know, like I accomplished this. I get this deload week versus, oh, he just threw this at me because I'm not feeling it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of, you know, my whole structure of it.
Got you. Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to kind of see how you guys and if we align. But
Yeah, no, I
we do.
like that.
Great.
I like that.
No.
Yeah, and I start my prep Monday, so I'm taking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. I'm gonna relax, and well, I'm going away for Orlando for a little bit, but
There you go.
that's what I'm taking it off. I need it.
You
It's been
time
a
that
while.
shit perfectly then.
Yeah.
Classic or what?
Classic physique.
Nice.
You're gonna kill it, brother. You're gonna
Yeah,
kill it, bro.
We'll see. Hopefully
You're
these legs grew a little bit so I could see where they're at.
Everything grew, bro. You ate your former self, bro. Like,
Oh my gosh. I'll show you guys one day. Maybe I'll put them side by side after this prep. When I first did my show, it was like, I think it was 4 years ago or 5 years ago. I was a twig.
Bro, feel
It
you.
was crazy.
Yeah,
But,
anybody who sees you, Rob, like that's like my friend or like, you know, from my hometown or anybody, they're just like, bro, that guy is humongous.
I appreciate hearing that, man, because you know what? I don't see it. I look in the mirror every day. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure.
you're killing it, man. I'm hyped to see what you do for the prep, and I know you're stick to your plan, so I'm excited for that. So
I
Yeah,
appreciate
Rob,
it all.
Rob, if you didn't have body dysmorphia, you want to be a good bodybuilder, man. You're never
This
going
is
to be
true.
big enough.
Yeah.
You're never going to be cut enough. You're never going to be nothing enough. That's what keeps you in the pursuit.
that's how it is.
And that's how it needs to be, and it needs to stay that way too.
Yep, 100%.
All right, guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a great week. Another good pod. Shout out to all the clients that are tuning in and listening, you know, every week.
For real.
We really
Yep.
appreciate you guys, and any feedback you can give us, throw it in the
Please
family
do.
group chat and the team group chat. But we love you guys tuning in, listening into us. Pass it around to anybody who's interested in joining the team. We'll see if we have a spot for them. But we can all agree as coaches that we love doing this. We're going to keep doing it, keep giving you guys new stuff to listen to. So tune in every week and we'll keep taking care of you guys. So
Yep.
Absolutely.